Hey everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. I am about ready to head inside my greenhouse because it is eviction day for two of my beautiful plants that I have been taking care of all winter long. I pulled them out of my garden last probably late September, early October, put them in one of my raised beds here inside my heated greenhouse, and I have tended to them and nurtured them all winter long. And in fact, I have been taking cuttings from them. Probably a month or so ago, I started doing that and propagating them to turn them into more plants. If you followed my channel, you know what I love, and that is Coleus. And I love propagating Coleus. Just so simple. Take a cutting, stick it in water, let some roots grow, stick it in soil, and you've got a whole new plant. So before we head into the greenhouse and evict those two big, beautiful Kong red Coleus, I'm going to ask all of you to please like and subscribe to my channel so I can continue to grow my channel, to meet more gardeners like you, and just spread the joy of gardening. Here we go inside the greenhouse so I can show you all which plants are getting evicted. Now, take a look at everything. I have been, believe it or not, evicting lots of plants and putting them out in the garden. My peppers and my tomatoes and cut flowers and other Coleus. In fact, my last video that I showed you all is how I planted up my beautiful 4-foot planter on our deck and added it full of Coleus and a beautiful climbing mandevilla. So you have to check out that video that I just posted if you hadn't seen it. And this is what I'm talking about. Look at these beauties. That is one plant, and I have cut and cut on it. It would have been easily way above this top shelf, but I've cut it since last September, and look, I made a bunch of new baby ones. Look at all those that I have. I'm going to be able to give some of these away to some of my friends, and I've got others for my garden. So, all right, I'll set up the camera here. I'm going to dig these babies out, put them here, and then we're going to go back outside. I don't know if I can peek through my greenhouse window and show you. Let's see. Oh, yeah. You see those two big pots? One in each, and then I'll place them up closer to the house. And I guess I'm just going to get to digging, and I think I'm going to use my Hori knife. This is a garden knife. It does all kinds of things. You've seen me show you this many times. So I'm not really sure. I have no clue what I'm going to find in terms of the root structure, but I'm going to try to get most of the root ball, and then I'm going to transfer it to my potting tray right here, and then carry these outside of the greenhouse, and then I'll do the potting up outside. So, you know, I just love Coleus because they come in endless varieties. Literally any kind of color, size, pattern. Whoops. Uh-oh. Okay, so normally someone might cry when they do this, but I won't, because I'm going to take all of these and I'll turn these into more Coleus plants. So I'm going to put that to the side. And let's see what I can discover. Oh, that was easy. You know, this raised bed is really great fluffy soil, so pretty easy to pull this out. Let me show you the roots. Okay, and so I'm gonna just set it right in the tray. That could not have been easier. So I'm going to tackle this other one. Sorry, the camera angle is not the best. You'll have to look at the back of my head while I'm doing this. But hopefully this one will come out as easily as that other one. A lot of people, before I pull this out, a lot of people ask me about my heated greenhouse. I choose to heat it because I can do things like this. I can grow my geraniums all winter long. And so I use a couple of different heaters in the really harshest part of our winters. You know, here in zone 6, mid-Missouri, we get super, super cold in the winter for long stretches. And so I use two heaters. I use an oil-based electric heater. And then I have, for extra, when it's super cold, I have a second little electric heater. They're both connected to thermostats that I have set at 55 degrees. A lot of greenhouse growers will set their heaters at like 50 degrees, but I baby my plants. So I set it at 55 degrees. So anytime in the winter it gets below 55 in here, they automatically kick on. They have been super, super reliable heaters. I think, let's see, 3 years ago when we first got our greenhouse, the very first winter I had it, I had purchased some Palma heaters because they're supposed to be known as these great greenhouse heaters. And I had one, I guess, malfunction or whatever. Oh my goodness. I came out here the next morning and my Coleus that I love, I had loads of it in the greenhouse in winter and it was all melted. It got down that night to probably 25 degrees outside and it was really cold in here and it just killed all my Coleus. So I got rid of the Palma heaters. Some of you might that have greenhouses might love them, but I had horrible luck with those. So my oil-based and my little electric heater keeps this great. The other thing that I do that's super important all year long is I have an oscillating fan, and many of you have seen it in my videos. I'm pointing at it. It's back there in the corner, and it is on 24/7. Summer or winter. Really important in the winter that it circulates warm air, so all of my plants get that. Really important in the summer that I circulate cool air to keep things nice. And then when you are growing things, especially I grow a lot of things from seed, they need wind. They need the air to toughen them up and have their stems be more sturdy. And so that's really important as well. So if you happen to be lucky enough to have a greenhouse, whether it's a temporary one or a permanent one, you need to make sure you have airflow going through your greenhouse. All right, enough about greenhouses. That's not really what this video was about, but it's about having a greenhouse like this and overwintering things. I have heard some folks can overwinter Coleus in their houses. All the foliage will die away. Whoops. Oh man, what a mess. But they can overwinter inside their house where it stays relatively warm. So, all right, that was so simple. Now I'm going to carefully carry the Coleus out and we're going to get them into two really beautiful ceramic pots. Get them all potted up and then I'll show you where they're going to end up. One's going to be inside, sort of inside the house, and one's going to be out on one of our little patios. Ugh. Okay, I have made my way out on the side of the greenhouse with my two beautiful Coleus and these two beautiful pots that they're going to go in. This beautiful blue pot, I've used this for years. Blue happens to be one of my favorite colors. I think this foliage against this blue, stellar, as well as this beautiful foliage against this pretty sagey green big pot. So what I like to do is, of course, anytime you plant in containers that are going to be outside, so critical that they have drainage holes. The one thing that kills most plants is overwatering. And if you load up, especially ceramic pots that don't breathe, that the soil, the moisture from the soil doesn't evaporate like it would in a terracotta pot. So if you're using ceramic, you want to make absolutely certain they have nice drainage holes so that any excess water can leave. But I also don't want all the soil when I water to spill out and get all over things. So I have a couple of squares of some mesh screening. This is really soft and pliable. It's kind of, I think this is maybe what they used when they did our screened-in porch. So yeah, so I have a couple layers of that. That's just going to go right down in the bottom of each pot. And I'm going to fill the pots. Again, I'm going to use Miracle-Gro potting mix today. I've talked to you a lot about soil, the importance of high-quality soil for ornamentals, things that we're not going to eat, serve to anybody, feed kids, etc. I will go with something like this, but generally speaking, I use organic potting mix for edibles and anything like that because it's better for you. So, all right, could not be easier. So I'm going to fill these pots up with some of the soil I just talked about and figure out how they're going to fit in there. Make sure I put in Biotone, a starter fertilizer to help these acclimate to the pots and get their root development really going for the summer. You know, they're going to be outside and they're going to be exposed to the elements. So we want strong roots to help these beautiful Coleus plants kind of sustain themselves when they're out here in the elements. All right, let's get to it. One of the other things I wanted to mention to you before I put the plants in, first of all, I decided to pop them up inside my trusty little sled because they're going to be heavy. And also if I have a lot of spillage, which if you've seen my videos, you know, I'm on the struggle bus when I'm using these big heavy bags of soil, and a lot of times I spill them. So if I spill, hopefully it'll end up in here and I can reuse that soil. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that, of course, this is really lofty, super dry right now soil. And so you can imagine once you water them in, that's going to settle things down quite a bit. And so I will probably have to add more. That's why I brought this other bag out. So just wanted to kind of share that with everybody. All right, well, let's take a look at these root balls on these gorgeous Coleus. I mean, instant plant. Whoa, so gorgeous. Okay, I'm gonna set it in there for just a minute. And I'm gonna push the soil away. Actually, let me bring in the camera so you can see that a little bit better. All right, let's see how this big old root ball is gonna fit. So I need to push the soil away up the sides a bit so it'll fit nicely. It's always important that when you are transplanting any kind of plants, either like we're doing with plants that I've had going for a long time, or when you bring plants home from the nursery, you want to make sure your plants are well watered before you do this. You don't want to pull this out of a spot and have this super dry. It's just too much shock for your plants to handle. So make sure you water them, let the water sit in them, you know, overnight or at least for an hour or so to moisten up the root balls before you shock them by transplanting. So here's my Biotone. I'm going to take a nice handful, maybe a couple handfuls, and pop that down in there. Okay, so let's see how I want to place this. I'm going to try to center it as best I can. That looks pretty darn good. It's always important to kind of stand back and look at what you've done. And then I'm going to just reach in this other pot and I'm going to backfill. It's a good idea to try when you can to place your transplants in the pot at about the same depth that they were in whatever they were growing in before, whether it's a nursery pot, if it's a brand new plant, or in my case, these were in my little raised bed there in my greenhouse. And so I don't want to plant it too deep or too high. But Coleus are tough. They are really forgiving unless they get a frost. Then you are going to cry and say goodbye to your Coleus because, oh yeah, they are tropical, so they do not like cold weather. Okay, so here is what we ended up with, the blue one and the green one. So the next stop is to connect this sled to my little scooter and take them where they're going to end up. And I may end up trimming this one. This looks a little bit lopsided. It looks like there's a lot of extra foliage on that end. So I might be doing a little pruning to get it to look the right shape. So yeah, next stop, the back patio. All right, so this is where the Coleus is going to live. I'm going to move it right over there in just a second. Here's one of my big, beautiful aquapot lights that you've seen. I have two of these in front of the greenhouse, one on each side of the greenhouse door, and I will be planting those three up identically in another video, and probably in the next 3 or 4 days. They're going to get full of beautiful flowers. So yeah, so I'm going to pop this right over in the corner, and one of the reasons why I'm going to do that is because I'm going to connect drip irrigation, which is already run here. I have this on drip, and so I'll be running this up the backside and putting this drip in the pot so that this Coleus gets all the water that it needs. But it's looking really wonky right now, the shape of it. And so I have my pruners here. So I think I'm going to take after it just a little bit and see what I can do to make it look a little prettier, as they say. So here's where she's ended up. And you know, she was a little bit wonky. She'd been growing in the greenhouse kind of crammed into a corner. So I've been doing some pruning, light pruning. Just like a haircut, take off a tiny bit, step back, look, you can't put it back. So I think it's okay for now. I'm going to water her in. I hand water all my pots on my screened in back porch. It's part of my routine. But as I mentioned earlier, the bigger the pot, the less often you have to water because all that soil volume really holds on to water. So, you know, it'll take her a couple weeks to get used to her new place to live. But yeah, I am excited about this addition to the covered porch. So that's going to do it for today's video. I got to evict my Coleus that have been in my greenhouse since last September and found them a new home for this summer. I'm really pleased with how they came out. Fingers crossed they make the transition pretty well. Coleus are a fairly tough plant in my experience. One of the reasons why I like them. So yeah, I will be, of course, checking all of my pots on a regular basis every single day as they sort of get acclimated to their new homes to make sure the moisture level is just right for what they need. So until next time, I'm going to wish you all happy gardening.